Good evening and welcome back to Channel 2 News. I'm lead anchor, Hunter Zaniewski. Over the past few years, many of our watchers have written in to our investigative journalists here at Channel 2. Everyone in Judea wants to know the same thing. What happened to Saul, the Pharisee? Well, after several years of investigative work, we have finally found the former Pharisee, and Channel 2 News is thrilled to be breaking the story to you tonight. For those of you viewers who don't know, Saul was a Tarsus-born Roman citizen who came to fame for his zeal as a Jewish Pharisee. At the time, Saul could often be found on the tracks of those who claimed to live under the leadership of a particular Jewish rabbi named Jesus. You may remember as Saul stood by in approval as a Jewish crowd stoned Stephen for blasphemous religious statements. Channel 2 News caught up with Saul shortly after Stephen's stoning as he was preparing to continue that work in Damascus, but we haven't heard from him since, until today. We finally tracked down Saul and found him in a holding cell in Rome, where he's awaited trial before Caesar for the last several years. Saul, now called Paul, claims to have had an encounter with the very rabbi whose teaching he so violently opposed in the past. While Channel 2 News has covered the Rabbi Jesus in a previous segment, we'd like to remind viewers that he was put to death on a cross. Now, despite this, followers of the way and now Paul claim that Jesus has risen from the dead and has good news for all nations. Upon encountering Jesus, Paul has taken on an entirely new persona. Where he once persecuted disciples of Christ, Paul now makes it his mission to create new disciples. Paul's Christian ministry kicked off in Jerusalem, but since has spread throughout the regions of Asia and Macedonia as well. Paul initially preached to fellow Jews that Jesus was the Messiah as foretold in Old Testament prophecies. Paul's previous history as a Pharisee has positioned him uniquely to speak with authority on this subject. But as our reporters asked Paul whether he thought his former piety gave him a revered status amongst Jesus' followers, Paul simply recounts his old life as rubbish in light of his new situation. Paul's new faith and association with Gentiles has angered his former colleagues, which has led him to preach his message abroad. After Peter gave the go-ahead to bring the message to the Gentiles, Paul took the lead and has never looked back. Paul's message, however, has landed him in hot water. Besides countless instances of hardship, Paul now finds himself in a lengthy court battle, which has been appealed to Caesar. Even from the cell where we found him in, Paul has been filling his time spreading the message. Time will tell just how Paul is handled by the Roman state, but if you ask him, Paul is exactly where he needs to be. Channel 2 News, Hunter Zaniewski.